Very good. You know, the Bari Ilam tells me what the sugya tells me what is the the Masechta to learn. You know, but it's pretty amazing that we're learning these two Masechtas of Beitza and Chulin, which are like the two best chef Masechtas you can imagine. You know, and I didn't like think of it at the time. I've always wanted to learn Chulin though. And Beitza, how did we get to Beitza? It was after Avodah Zarah, and I don't know, it just came. So you check date egg,
Eek.
you know, check date egg, check date egg.
All right, we're basically ready to rock. We are going live.
So we were going live on what?
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and it's gonna be saved to
Whichever ones it's been saving to since we
Shmuel
started.
Herenstein,
Yeah,
Pasha Herenstein,
Fig Big.
Fig Big. Okay, it's gotta have a moon
And
in
you're gonna have the chat of Instagram will pop up here, and the chat from Facebook and YouTube will pop up here, so you could just see it as it's happening.
Wow. I mean, all right. I don't even know if anyone's gonna see and comment and it's gonna work, but we'll do our best. You know, I'm just trying to steig Tyra, steigen here. We saw in Beitza the idea of bittul-based medrash, that Abba Shaul meant business, you know? And it was actually talking about learning during the Moed. That was what Abba Shaul ben Bitnis was talking about. That he would, that he meant business, that he would prepare at night so that during the Moed people can come and just like get the food, and it wasn't like such a long process of measuring
Right.
the wine or whatever. It was specifically talking about learning Torah on Chol Moed. There's a big inyan in respecting Chol Moed, and I learned this from the fact that it says in Pirkei Avos that if someone doesn't respect the Moed, you know, not good stuff. Over here,
How do I do that? Just
So you're saying
Lord,
Chol Hamoed is more than just Disney World?
yeah, Chol Moed is big, bro.
Okay.
Extension kicked on. Staying here. So is there a way to make, I guess this is good. I guess this is Jude. Hey Jude, don't have a cat.
So you and your dad cooked for Seder on Shabbos? Nice.
Everything at the right time. Oh, thanks, Ruth. Okay, so sometimes, wait, hold on. Sometimes I hear jokes from The Simpsons that's so funny that I just think about it. And it's just like, he's like, let's go from yesterday. Okay. Marge says, Homer, there's a guy here to see you. He says he has information that can help you. Homer's like, oh, is it Batman? No, Homer, it's a scientist. Batman's a scientist. It's not Batman. Batman's a scientist. Baruch Hashem. It's so funny because, like, Homer has such a ridiculous question, right? Is it Batman? And Marge is like, no, it's a scientist like telling him who it is, giving him extra information. But then Homer's like, oh, but that answer actually doesn't dispel completely my question that it could be Batman. It's not Batman. She just cuts it off. I thought it was so funny. All right. It's not Batman. Chav Tes Amid Aleph. Oh, we're live?
Which second line?
And we're back!
We're back.
I'm still here.
Olivia never left.
Oh, second o'clock.
Yo, over here. It's a good thing. Started here with Batman.
Isn't there an English to start
With Milsa de B'dichusa, you're right. Wow, that's good. Limit Schos, Shkayach. We also like to start Shir with the following prayer. Yehira Tzomil Fanecha Adonai Elohai V'Elohei Avosai Shelo Ye'ara Davar Takala Al Yadi. Nothing bad should come from me, from my hands. V'lo ekasher b'dvar halacha. I shouldn't make any mistakes. V'yizmechu vi chaverei. My friends should rejoice from me. V'lo omer al tamei tahor. I shouldn't say that something that's impure is really pure. V'lo atar tamei, and not on something that's pure to say that it's impure. V'lo mutar asr, v'lo asr mutar. I shouldn't say what's legal is illegal, and vice versa. V'lo yikashlu chaverei b'dvar halacha. And my friends also should mess up with dvar halacha. V'esmach b'hem, and I should rejoice from them. Ki Adonai yidin chachma v'piv da'as u'sivuna. Because Hashem gives chachma from his mouth, da'as and sivuna. Chachma, bina, da'as. We're in Sfiras HaOmer. We're talking about Sfiras. Very interesting. V'safartim lachem. You count, and this is the time when like we have Sfiras printed in even the Ashkenazi sitters. Hashem, open my eyes so that I can witness and speculate the wonders of your Torah. We are on Chulin Daf 29a in the schus of the captives, in the schus of the soldiers. Hashem should protect them, free them, guide them. Schus of Am Yisrael, schus of the family, schus of the yeshiva. 29a. Meseches Chulin, Rov Echad Be'of. So this is going back, hearkening back, if you will, to 27a in the Mishnah, when it says the majority of one in a bird, V'rov Shnayim B'vehema, and the majority of two in an animal, Shchitaso Kashera. But wait a second. Didn't we start the Mishnah saying that if you do one in a chicken and two in an animal, the Shchita is kosher, and Robo Shel Echad Kamohu, and the majority of one is like it. So then why does the Mishnah conclude saying the majority of one in a chicken or in a bird, the majority of two in an animal? Shchita is kosher.
Mishnah doing a chazera on itself.
Yeah, exactly. The Mishnah seems to be doing chazara on itself. But the Mishnah, every word in the Mishnah was meant to be remembered. And so the Mishnah doesn't make a habit of just repeating itself for no reason. So the question is, then why is it repeating itself here?
I try to do the same thing.
Yeah, we don't want to waste, we don't want to have to repeat ourselves. Sometimes we do. And that is a great thing when it's chazara. It says, Luchos ha'even, the tablets of stone. Chazal darshan, that who Divrei Torah miskaimen by? Who does the Divrei Torah stay by? Someone who puts their lechayayim, their jaws, like stones. Rashi says, so they're always talking out sugyas, always doing chazara, always teaching the students, always repeating themselves and saying it over. And the mouth doesn't get tired. Luch is like a stone mouth, just keeps talking Torah, and that's the way that it keeps the Torah. Luchos ha'even, steht in Gemara. Rov echad be'ov. the majority of one in a bird. Tanina chada zimna. Tanina, what does that mean?
That's in the Mishnah.
Ah, very good. Mishnah. Tanina chada zimna. We taught it one time. Rubo shel echad kamohu. The majority of one is like it. Shalom, Aaron. Shalom, Grum. But that might have been yesterday.
No.
No, yeah, it says the mini feed. When were they on? A day ago. Over here. Oh, yeah, okay. Everything at the right time. Shalom to them from yesterday. So, Amar Rav Hoshia says, Rav Hoshia, Chada b'chulin v'chada b'kadshim. One of these cases, the first time we mentioned it, we needed it to tell us about chulin, mundane, v'chada b'kadshim, and one of the times we mentioned it, it was about korbanos, about kachim, vitzricha, and we need it. The iashma'inan chulin. If you only taught me one of the things you taught me chulin, hazamhu tesagile biruba. It's chulin. It's enough to just do rove, to just cut the majority of the neck. Mishum delav ledamu tzarich. Because it's not that for the blood he needs, right? You can cut the majority of the thing of the necks, of the simanim, of the pipes in the neck in mundane, because you don't need the blood. The Yidin, we don't drink even animal blood, you know? So Desagile viruba mishum delav ledam hutzarich. He doesn't need the blood. Aval b'kadshim, but when it comes to kadshim, when it comes to korbanais, diledam hutzarich, that he actually needs blood. Ema lo tizki le biruba. When it comes to kachim, that he needs the blood. Why does he need the blood in the sacrifice? Shalom. Abba. Abba Shaul ben Bitnis. We learned about him preparing to give shir on Chol HaMoed. So it's a big schos to be joined by Avimairi. Okay, so Kadshim, that he needs the blood, Ema lo tiskile beruba. Say that it's not enough in Kadshim to cut the robe, the majority. I was thinking, what's that constellation called? Majora, Ursa Majora.
Ursa Major.
Ursa?
There's Ursa Minor and Ursa Major.
Ursa Minor is the major, yeah.
Big Bear and Little Bear.
Big Bear, Little Bear. By the way, interesting sugyas when the bear market, they call it a bear market, and Kanye is also a bear, and people have noted.
Kanye's a bear?
They say, yeah, the bear, teddy bear as his,
Oh,
he's not a bear, but he has a teddy bear as on his albums.
oh, I didn't know that.
So people are saying Pshatim, obviously, we're blaming Shver, but people have noticed a correlation when Kanye's in the news and the stock market's doing badly.
Wow, interesting.
I don't know. It's obviously strong blibes, but Ursa Major.
I think Ursa Major is also either the Little Dipper or the Big Dipper. I'm not sure.
Oh, so we really gotta learn these
The
things.
Big Dipper.
We really gotta learn these things, and we'll get them clear at the right time. So, anyways, why did I get distracted by Ursa Major? Because by the parparos, we're here learning meat and potatoes, but Takufos and Camachios is the parparos. It's a little appetizer, a little dessert. So why did I get distracted into dessert gematria astronomy world? Because it says it shouldn't be enough with the majority, with the major. I was like, oh, Ursa, Majora. Ad the Ika Kule. Right? You would say in Kachim you gotta have Orion. Abimari says Orion and Ursa. Orion is the Gemara talks about it, I think, when it talks about Kima or Ksil. These are things the Gemara talks about when it's talking about the astronomy. It's talking about these psukim in Eov. And I remember one of them was like Orion or Orion, and then Ursa Major, Ursa. These are things that the Gemara talks about.
I did a book report on Orion when I was in like 3rd grade.
Orion!
Orion!
Orion! So, what'd you learn?
So there's 3 main stars in the constellation of Orion that make up Orion's belt. And there's also something called the Horsehead Nebula, which is a bunch of space gas that looks like a horse, like you could see. And then there's Betelgeuse, which was considered the largest star known to humanity for recorded history until recently, which is a red star. It's a huge red star. It's like 1,000 times the size of our sun, supposedly.
Right.
And then it's here, and then there's also another star, a part of the constellation called Sirius, which is a blue star by where the ankle of Orion would be.
Okay, Mirza Hashem, Yeshiva School Show this summer. We will maybe go into some of these sugis. You know, it's Kaitzman. It's the time to look into the stars. We'll see what it says in the Gemara. That's how we learn astronomy in Yeshiva School Show. What state in Gemara? What state in Pasuk? Because there is truth in these things, but likely not what they're giving to us in the mainstream sources.
Right.
You know, because how do they know? How do we know? We go, what state in Torah Kadesha? Okay. So, anyways, ad ika kulev iash me'inan kajim, and if you're saying you only teach me that rubo of the simon is enough, and one in the chicken, and two in animal. So aval kajim diladamu tzarech, that. Sorry, and if you only taught me kajim in the second long line in the page, if you only taught me kajim, mishum diladam hu tzarech, because he needs the blood. Aval chulin, but chulin diladam lo tzarech ema bepalga sagi. You tell me that rove is enough in kajim? Yeah, that's because he needs the blood. He needs to catch it and snat it and send it and sprinkle it and this and that. And so I would think that but when I'm coming to consume the blood, so bepalga sagi, with half of a simon, it would be enough. Sagi le kamash malan. Kamash malan. Hi bechulin v'hai bekachim. We learn from here that this one is chulin and that one is kachim. We see that chulin, you cut rove, and you need both. We need to have them both taught to us. There would not be a way to teach us in one and to extrapolate to the other. Rav Kahana says, Rav Kahana. You know what Rav Kahana said very famously? It's Torah, and I need to learn it. Rav Kahana, and also Rav Kahana said they must go, but that's different Rav Kahana. Rav Kahana, and it's not even clear that was exactly, right? You can't sum up a nuanced opinion in one slogan. Amar Rav Kahana, Mistabra, Reisha, Bechulin, Viseifa, Bekadshim. It stems. What's the shoresh of that word, Mistabra?
Svar.
Very good, Sva. Mistabra, it makes sense to say, Reisha, Bechulin, Viseifa, Bekadshim. The beginning is in Chulin, mundane, and the Seifa, the end, is in Kachim, right? We say that one time they taught it to us that Rubo, Kamohu, and you cut the majority of the pipe, and that one, the first time they talking to us, that was with Chulin. And the second one, the last one, the latter is to Kachim. Mimai.
Why?
Nice. Why? Midikitari, I'll show you. From the fact that it teaches hashaychet. From the fact that the word is hashochet. You know, we go back to our Heliga Mishnah, and the first word is indeed hashochet, right? And we go to the first Mishnah in the parak. It says hakol shochten v'shchitas and keshera. But we also saw that when it says hashochet, that where we saw that means like, I don't know. Maybe we saw something back in the day. Hashochet meant b'diavad, maybe. But it was a diuk. They always making diuks. Hashochet. He who shechts. Right? And the Rashi says in the Gemara, they're going to ask two in the Behema, why is it saying Lashon b'diavad? Right? It says hashochet. The reason it says hashochet, he who shechts one in the oath, is because he who shechts one in the chicken, it's because really best case you should shech two. And the best case you should try to shech both of both. Right? But hashochet echad be'of, it's kosher. So it says midikitani hashochet. From the fact that it says hashochet you shech v'isa k'taytach reisha b'kadshim. And if you're talking that if you want to say that the first time that it says rove is, the majority is like the whole thing is in kajim, and it says hamolek mi baile. It wouldn't say hashochet, it would say hamolek. Elamai seifa bekajim. Elomai, so what's the case? That the Seifa is talking about kachim. Shchitazo keshera. But it says shchitazo keshera. If you do echad be'ov style, the hema rov, kamo shchitazo keshera, it should say milikazo keshera. Milikazo keshera mi baile. We know that word mi baile means that's what it should say. It needs to say from the lashon of ba'aya, like a problem. It's or bai is to need. Someone says, I have a problem. It's like, I need something. Elamai, wait, so there's, everybody like, ha, lokash, that's not a question. I did the salik mi behema, since it started with animal, wasn't only talking about the bird case, it was also talking about the animal case. I did the salik mi behema, tananami shchita zo kashera. So we also teach that the shchita is kashera. Even though they could have said Molik also. Elo Resha, but at the beginning, Michti. Who knows what Michti means?
I know we had the not like in order complying.
That's good line. Michti means let's see.
Let's see.
Michti, let's see.
What? Let's see.
Let's see. Michti, let's see.
Let's see.
Let's
See.
See. But the Resha Michti, let's see. Al Ovkai, that the Resha is talking about a bird. If you think that it's talking about Kachim, Hamolik Mibaile, you would have to say Hamolik because it would only be talking about Kachim of a bird, and the only thing we do Kachim with the bird is Malika. Yeah, look how long my Malika finger is.
Let's see the teeth. Very good.
But in the second case, when it's talking about an animal also, so it could use the word hashochet. Okay, so the second one is talking about kachin. Rav Simi Bar Ashi. Oh, I feel it seems to me that I've seen Rav Simi Bar Ashi in shir last night, I think, in Beitzah. Simi Barashi, and I thought about saying this last night, but it was like 45 minutes shir. I'll wait till we see it again. Let's wait till we see it tomorrow. Just kidding. I didn't know that we were going to see it tomorrow. But Rav Simi Barashi, I'll say it now. Labriut, Hilga Chef. Rav Simi Barashi, Rav Ashi was the last generation of the Amoraim, but his son made it in. So when people are talking about generations, some people categorize them into 5 generations. Some people categorize them into 7 generations. And it depends how you count. I can maybe even categorize them into 9, or 8. Simi Bar Ashi is the last. One of the last generations. When he's talking, he's one of the guys talking the generation where it was sealed, where the Talmud was sealed. So Rav Simi Bar Ashi comes in late game and he says Reisha Bechulin. The first case when it talks about that, the Rove, it's talking about Chulin. Mundane, and I'll show you because it says 1 in a poultry. And if you would have thought to say that it's talking about kachim in the Resha, in the opening clause. Shkayach. These are going to do bekachim. Ika ola zaov. What about ola zaov to buy shtei simanim? Oh, I thought about that one. That when it comes to the bird, there's 2 types. Remember, we saw the first type is the beginning of Parshas Vayikra, and the second one is at the end of Parshas Vayikra. The first one is is a ola sa'of, and the second one is a chata sa'of. And they both get malikad. But the ola, you need to cut 2 simanim. You need to cut both the trachea and the esophagus with your fingernail or teeth. Elamai, rather, what can you say, right? Because it says echad be'of. But if it was talking about kachim, that wouldn't be accurate, echad be'of, because kachim, sometimes it's echad be'of, and sometimes it's shtayim be'of. Sometimes 1 in a boyd, sometimes 2 in a boyd. But in chulin, in mundane eating, it is always 1 in a boyd. Elamai, that the Seifa, the second time when the Mishnah comes and repeats itself, it's talking about kachim. Rov echad be'of ha'ika olas of. Wait a second, but you're telling me rov echad be'of. The Seifa ain't kachim, we still have the same question. What about olas of that gets 2 simanim? The Baishnei simanim, that it necessitates a double sign cut. My rov echad. So what does it mean, rov echad? And oaf, it means rov kol echad v'echad, the majority of each one, this one, and that one. Ubedinu, and so logically, the listening rov shnayim. Logically, it should have said rov shnayim. That's what it would have said. But since they also have the chatas ha'of, that it's enough to just cut 1 of the simanim, mishum hachi lo psikale. And so that's why they didn't say 2, because there's also the 1. So they said rov echad, and it means rov of echad ve'echad in the case of the ola sa'of. That has to get both of them cut in the Seifa of the Mishnah. Rav Papa Amar, Rav Papa says, Reisha b'chulin mehacha. Rav Papa says, I'll prove to you that the first time that it says mehacha, I'll prove to you from here to Ketani, because it says in a Mishnah, or in a Brisa, or it says in our Mishnah. So Dikitani, but it's because it taught, and here, even though it's a 1 nun, but it means in our Mishnah, because it's our Mishnah. Dikitani, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Ad Sheyishchot Es Havaridin. Rabbi Yehuda says you gotta cut the Fridin, the veins. Shkai. Upligi Rabbanan Allah, and the rabbis argue on him. Hu atzmo ledam hu tzarich. What? This guy, he needs blood? Rav Ashi Amar. Rav Ashi is the dad of Simi Barashi. And Rav Ashi says, Seifa b'kad shemiyachas. Not only, he's like, my son, very proud of him, my little son, watching him go up there, darshan, and tell us how we know that the Reisha is chulin. And he proves it from the fact that it says echad b'of. That's good. He says, I will prove that the Seifa is talking about kachim, me'acha, to Ketani, because it says, Ashrochet shnei roshin ke'echad shchitazo keshera. If you cut 2 heads at once, you got 2 ducks lined up, and the guy goes, Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, straight through, killing two at once, a combo martial arts move. Shchitaso keshera, the shchita is good in that case. So it says hashochet, right? Again, it says da shechter, the one who shechts it. So shchita is kosher. So hashochet implies the eved in lechatchila lo. The eved, it's okay to have two necks cut at once in one swoop, you know. This guy does an extra molichu maybe you can get two or three at once, you know. She does the eved in lechatchila lo. Iyamart b'shleima b'kachim hainu de lechatchila lo. So if you say b'shleima, I understand b'kachim, that's talking about kachim hainu de lechatchila lo. That would be why lechatchila you shouldn't do it. Mishom de tani Rabbi Yosef, because Rav Yosef Sagi Nahor, meaning couldn't see, he was blind. He says Tizbach, it's a pasuk, Ki tizbechu zevach shlamim laHashem l'ritzonchem tizbechu. When you do a korban to Hashem, l'ritzonchem, to his ratzon, you should tizbachu, you should zevach it. Tizbach shelo yehu shnayim shochatin zevach echad. But it says tizbechu in the pasuk. But the guy is saying tizbach. Oh, maybe it's written tizbach. Do we have a Tanakh over here?
Yeah.
Nice. And I also have the Chumash. Shkayach. You can look it up, Zalman. Oh, Zalman. Hamed Karaita de Igrisa Ihu Lihabi Barvanka. So we are looking up Vayikra, Leviticus 19:5. And you guys look up on your phone if you want. No press. 19:5. 94. 95. V'ki tizbechu. No, it says tizbechu. V'ki tizbechu zevach shlavim laHashem l'ritzonchen tizbechuhu. Okay.
What'd you say? Kedushin?
Yeah. So 19:5. You want to read the verse?
You shall not steal. You shall not deny falsely.
No, it's not the one.
That's not what you want.
Leviticus.
19, verse 5. You were reading 9.
It's okay.
You slaughter for yourselves. On the day you...
Okay. L'ritzonchen tizbechu. Nice. Shkayach. So it says tizbach. And we learn from that pasuk, when you're slaughtering the peace offering, talk about that. It says tizbach. And we learn shelo yehu shnayim shochtim zevach ke'echad, that you shouldn't have two people shechting one zevach, two people shechting one korban. And it says ki tizbechu, and it says tizbechuhu shelo yeh echad shochet shnei zevachim, that one person shouldn't shech two korbanos. V'amar Rav Kahana, and Rav Kahana says, Tori Limdon Shach, says, B'chuhu ksiv, Rav Kahana says that it's written is bechulu. Ela iyamart bechulin. But if he's saying that the second case was talking about chulin, afilu lechatchila nami. In chulin, you can do it. You can do the double cut. Bruce Lee
Copy that.
slice. The Av Rashbal. Who's Rashbal? Nice. He had a lot of nicknames. Rish Lakish, Rashbal, Rishon ben Lakish, son of a Lakish, Simon, son of a Lakish.
This is the bucktooth guy?
No,
Oh, okay.
this is Shimon ben Lakish, the bandit. The bandit who changed his ways, came to the base medrash to marry the sister of Rabbi Yochanan. He was the head bandit in Israel at the time. And Rabbi Yochanan saw him jump over a Yarden. Said, "Oh, you got to use that strength for Torah." The Rishon ben Lakish Savar, he held Reisha Bechulin. The first time that they say this law of Rubo Kakulo, it's talking about Rov Simon is Kakulo, is talking about in mundane. The Reisha is talking about mundane. Reisha Bechulin. Reisha Bechulin over here. The Seifa Bekachim, and the Seifa is Kachim to Amar Rashbal, because Rishon ben Lakish says, once we learn that the robe of something is like it, Lama Shaninu Rov Echad Be'op Rov Shnayim Be'behema. Why do I need to then go and teach Rov Echad in an Ov and Rov Shnayim in a Behema? You already told me that the majority is like the whole thing. So why do you need to tell me Rov of one in a poultry, Rov of two in a behemoth? What are you adding to teach me that I already know? Levish in Chaninu, because we learned Heviu lo as atamid. They brought him the tamid. Who knows what a tamid is? Yeah. Yeah. The tamid. What does it mean? What does it mean? When do we bring the tamid?
Every day, twice.
Yeah, very nice. Tamid means consistent. Yeah. It means always.
Is the tamid and the ola the same thing or different thing? Or is it, sorry, I should clarify the question.
Yeah.
Is the tamid and ola?
Possibly. Let's see. So l'chora tamid is an ola, because what else would it be? It's ola tamid Hashem, right? What's the pasuk? That's l'chora, the tamid is a type of ola, and it's brought twice in the Beis Hamikdash, baboker ubein arbaim. Is it kefes achat saboker versus kefes sheni tzesevein arbaim? Is that the tamid? Tamid. Korban tamid, I.
Consistently did.
Shivisi Hashem. L'negdi tamid. We see kol yemei ani Israel. Ani Israel. Good thing that v'tov levav mishte tamid. Okay. So Hevilu as a tamid. Kartzo. You know what kartzo is?
Yep.
A wonk, wink.
Oh, wink.
Kartzo, that could be not what it means here, right? But the krotz is to wink, so what is it, kartzo? Kartzo, the mirak achar shchitaso al yado. So he carts it in. So Avmari says, how do we stim rov with with michzat kikulo. Well, it could be that, wait, what's michzat, michzas? Oh, like michzas yom, kulo, I don't know, I'm not sure exactly what Murray's question is. But Heviu lo as a tamid kartzo v'merak achar shchitazo. So we wink merak. What does merak mean? Make soup? No. Empty maybe. After the shchita. Al yad al yado yachol lo merak ye paso. What if you don't empty it out from Lashon Reik? Can we puzzle? L'kach shaninu rov echad be'ov. That's why you have to tell me that it's got to be the majority of one in a bird, majority of shtayim in a behema. Amar Mar, the master says. Danny Masterson, Scientologist, in prison for being a pedophile and a rapist.
Are you serious?
Anyone who believes in a globe is a Scientologist. Doesn't talk about that in Torah, but what religion doesn't talk about Glig and people coming from outer space? Scientology. So even if Scientologists, they may not know they're Scientologists, but believing in a globe, believing in outer space, believing in solar system, Scientology. It's an idea in Scientology, not in Yiddishkeit. So how do we get to Scientology? Because Danny Masterson says Mar. Yachol lo mirak ye pasul. What if you don't empty it out? Maybe it'll be pasul. Yachol, could it be? Im kain, if so, haviale avoda be'acher. If that was the case, it would be avoda in the other. Vitanya, and it says in Brisa, Kol avodas Yom Kippurim, all of the avoda on Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement, Eno Kasheros, Ella Bo, are not kosher, except with the Kohen Gadol maybe, Ella Bo. You can't have avoda with Acher. Achikam, here's the thing. Yachol Yehi Pasul Midirabanan. Maybe it'll be puzzle on a rabbinical level. To Sakadai Chamina, what does that mean? Sakadai Chamina.
Sakadai Chamina would go up on your mind to Amin.
To say, I would have thought to say, Sakadai Chamina, Ika Psul Midirabanan. That there is a Psul Midirabanan, Kach Shaninu, therefore we learned, or we taught, Rov Echad Ba'of, Rov Shnayim B'Vehema. That's why you needed to teach. Specifically, Rov Echad Ba'of, Rov Shnayim, even though we already learned, Rov is like the whole thing. Why do I have to do marak? Mitzvah lemarak. The mitzvah to make soup. I can't imagine that's what it's saying. But then again, chicken soup. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today without seeing Rashi. Let us see what we are looking at. All right, Rov Echad Be'ov, the majority of one in a boyed. Hanina Chadazimna, we taught it once. Rubo Sha'achad Kamahu. The Rov of one is like it, and then we see those three words in parentheses, which is Hakash Pashach Siman. All right, these are for people trying to remember them by heart. Remember these Gemaras by heart, which we do want to know. We'd love to remember Gemara by heart. Amar Rav Hoshea. Who can tell me something about Rav Hoshea? He was a very early Amira. He was one of the people who wrote the Toseftas, collection of Brisas. Amar Rav Hoshia, Chada bechulin, the Chada bekachim. One of these, when it's talking about Rov Kakulo, tell me they cut. So he said, Rubo Shalachad Kamahu. Why do I need to go and specifically tell me the Rov 1 in a chicken, Rov 2 in an animal? Rav Hoshia says, one of them is to teach me chulin, and one of them is to teach me kachim. V'tzricha, and I need them both. The iash minan chulin, if I only talk chulin, hazam hu tesagi le beruba. That's where it's enough to just teach. That's enough to have rov. Mishum zalam ledamu, lav ledamu tzarech. He doesn't need blood. Zakt Rashi, ledamu tzarech lezrika. He doesn't need to throw the blood, to do zrika, to sprinkle and throw the blood on the mizbeach. What's Rashi coming to do over here? A one-word Rashi asks and answer the question. Check and check. What is Rashi's question here? And what is Rashi's answer? He said one word, and that word is lizrika. Right? So what question was he answering? Because the Gemara says, what? You think the guy needs dam? You think the guy needs blood?
Yeah.
In Kache? It's like a question, like the damu tzarech? What? You think he needs blood in chulin? The damu tzarech? And Rashi says one word, lizrika? Lizrika. What's his answer? What's his question? What's his bavorn? Maybe it's like this. I want to say this following Pshat and Rashi.
What does the word mean?
Zrika, to throw, to sprinkle, to throw the blood.
Not randomly, specifically.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It says Lizrika. I think Rashi here, by saying Lizrika, is anticipating a question that we could have had. You're telling me that you don't need blood in chulin? Yeah. There's no kisoy adam?
Yeah, okay.
We do need blood in chulin. Comes Rashi and says, no, we're talking about Bezrika. Question answered, question asked, a one-word Rashi, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look at the Rashi. Unbelievable.
He just threw it at us.
Yeah, he just threw it at us. Malika, so L'damu tzarich. So aval bekadshim, but with kadshim, with kadshim, kodesh, korbanais, the l'damu tzarich, because in that case he does need the blood. Maybe it's not enough to have the majority. Maybe I need to cut the entire thing. Which, by the way, hopefully when we learn shchita, we will be makpid and cut. B'diavad it's okay just to cut one, or rov echad. But lichatchila is a full. It's cutting two. Cut them both.
Yeah.
And so it seems, Shlomo was pointing out earlier, that it seems to be that the more of the neck, if you get the vein,
right,
the animal dies quicker,
right,
less death throes. Right. And so that's something that we could focus on when we're doing shchita, is that we want to cut. We want to do lechatchila. Whenever you're doing something, we want to do lechatchila.
We want it to be clean. We don't want the animal to suffer.
Right.
If the blood is out, then it can't move.
Right.
That's what animates it.
Animates really the dam wa nefesh. Dam hu ha nefesh. Okay. So Malikazo Kasher Rabbi Baile, right? Aval he needs, you think it's not enough. You have to cut the entire thing. You might think V'iyash me'inan kachim, and if you only taught that rubo kekulo was by kachim, mishum diladamu tzarech. Therefore, the reason is because he needs the blood. Aval bechulin, you would say that he doesn't need blood. You would say it's enough just to cut half. Oh, hey. Okay, tov. So, diladamu tzarech, de le dam hu tzarech. But when you're doing chulin, you don't need the blood for zrika. You just put it on the ground, and there's not even an amount. However much blood comes out, that's the amount that you have to cover. It's not like, oh, it didn't bleed so much, this guy. You know? So you would think it's enough to do half. Kamash Malan. What's Kamash Malan?
We come to learn.
Yeah, we learn from here. Kamash Malan. This one. Chulin. That one. Kachin. Amar Rav Kahana. Wait, let's see if there's another Rashi. Okay, Amar Rav Kahana. So that's the first. That's Rav Hoshia telling me once it's chulin, once it's kachim, and the first one's chulin, the second one, the second time is kachim. Because the question is, why does our Mishnah repeat itself? Why does it tell me echad be'of shnayim v'hema at the beginning, and then say rov echad be'of rov shnayim v'hema? We know that rov is like it because it says rov shel echad is like it. So it seems to be some redundancies, and so we're saying no. One is teaching me mundane, one is teaching me holy.
You call it mundane, but it's not really mundane. It's just not given on the mizbeach. It's still holy for us to consume, and therefore...
Yeah, mundane is in comparison to kachim. It's called chulin, every day, weekday.
Right.
But even on Shabbos, we're eating chulin. Nowadays, like, we only get kachim when we get to bring the Korban Pesach, Mir Hashem.
Right.
Maybe we can get other ways with like Meiser Behema, I don't know. Okay. So Hai B'chulin, this is mundane, and this is kachim, this is sacrosanct. Amar Rav Kahana says Mistabra, it stems that the Reisha will be talking about chulin, and the Seifa will be talking about kachim. Rav Kahana says it stems. Mimai. Why? Or from what? Same thing. Mimai, from what? Why do you say this midikatani? From the fact that it is written in our Mishnah. Hashochet, it says in Mishnah, it says Hashochet dashachter, and in Isa Gedaitach, and if you thought to say, maybe we saw Kamash Malad, and we see Isa Gedaitach, if you think to say that the Reisha is talking about Kachim, it shouldn't say Hashochet, it should say Ha Molek. That's what you need to say. Elamai, rather what? The Seifa is Kachim. And then wait a second, the Shechita is Kachim, it's Shechita so kosher. Maybe Kazo kosher, but you should say, it should say, the Malika is kosher. Kilaimar, says Rashi. That is to say, Of Ibaile. On chicken, on poultry, we need it, Lemisni, to teach Malika so kashera, the Malika, the Esther, you remember what Malika is?
Malika. That word is so, oh my god.
I'll give you the hint.
Squeeze.
No, when we shecht the animal in the korban with our fingernail, or our teeth. It's the Kohen does it, and he shechts the animal for a korban, but it has to be from his body. And so where are the two ways that we can cut?
Their teeth or nails.
Fingernails or our teeth. Yeshiva's Gula, we also note anytime the Gemara gives us a fighting technique, self-protection, self-defense technique. So we got to remember from Malika that we have ways to cut on our body. Fingernails and teeth. Not that we should ever need to use those methods, but Shemor nafshecha me'od me'od, we gotta know. And we learn it by Malika. So it should say Malika in the first case if it was talking about a kachim in the Resha. Rather, it has to be in the Seifa. So wait a second, in the Seifa, it says Shritazo Gesher. You're telling me it's talking about Malika, so it's talking about a korban with a bird. And so it should say Malikazo Geshera. Is Malika is kosher? That's what it should say. Malikazo Gesher like Kilomar Aof Ibaile Lemizni Malikazo Gesher Vada Lizni Abehema Shritazo Gesher, and then teach that Shritazo Geshera of the animal. Elamai Seifa B'Kachim. Rather, what the Seifa, the last case, is talking about Kachim. But it should say Malikazo Kasher, by like Halo Kasha. You know what that means? Lo Kasha, Zalman? Not a Kasha. You know what Kasha is?
Yeah, you make it with munchies. It's a question.
Nice. The Kasha Varnica was actually the answer I was looking for. No, I was kidding. Yeah, it's a question. Very good. So Lo Kasha, not a question. I did the salik mi behema tani nami shritaso kashera. Since we're going off of behema, so we also taught that the shechting is kosher. Holo kashi, says Rashi, gabe hadadi tinaneu. It taught both. Because salik mi behema nagat shrita, and since it's going with the behema, right? It's talking about echad be'of shtayim behema. Since the behemoth was the second thing he mentioned, so it said shchitaso kashera. Eloresha kitana hashoche, when it says da shechter. Eloresha kitana. Eloresha, but the Resha Mechti. What does Mechti mean?
Mechti, we just learned this. It means let's see.
Very good. Let's see. Mechti, let's see. Al Ovkai. We're dealing with a bird. He thought we were talking about Kajim. Hamolek. It should have said Hamolek, but it doesn't. It says a Shoichet. So we see that the Resha is talking about Chulin. The first clause of the Mishnah is talking about mundane. Zalman, I have a song for you. If you don't like my translation, I have a song. If you don't like it, but you have. I hear your point, because there is a way that we can make the food holy, but it's not holy in and of itself. It's not kachim. It's not right. So I say. So the song is Sunday, Monday, and happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. All right, that's enough. Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni. All right. Every day, happy day. Shritazo keshera. So it must be that the Resha is talking about the mundane. He says, Eloreja michti, let's see, al ofkites, on of. But wait a second. What about Rashi here? Rashi here has a different girsa. Rashi says, michti be'ofkai. Not al ofkai, but be'ofkai. And immediately that goes, Vatzionim, sounds the alarm. It doesn't say be'of, it says a'of. Is it a oof? Is it a oof? Is it a oof? Is it a oof? Oof, right? You see that? It goes at Yudim, replaces the base for an aleph. Ubo ischil lehoros, and that's what it starts to teach. Vechisamach leishchita. How do they have shchita next to it? Be'of, for the chicken, if it's talking about an oaf kachim. It's talking about a sanctified chicken, not just a mundane, weekly, everyday chicken. So it should say hamolech. It should say melikaso. It says hamolech echad be'of. But it doesn't say that. So we see that it's talking about shchita. It's talking about chulin. Okay. Halchi garsina, my rov echad, rov kol echad, the echad, the lo garsinan. Ella. Lo psika le. Okay, hold on. So Rav Kahana, he wanted to show that it made sense that the beginning we're talking about chulin because it says hashochet and that's connected to the chicken, and so it's got to be chulin because only a chicken of chulin is shechted. A chicken of kachim is malikad. Rav Simi Bar Ashi has a pshat. He says the ratio in chulin. I'll show you it from Hacha, from here. Tikitani echad be'of, because it says one in an animal. Sorry, one in a bird. If you thought that I was talking about kachim, well, we have the ola sa'of. Ola sa'of, that it needs two simons. My rov, what do you mean when it says rov? It means rov kol echad v'echad, the majority of each one. Ubedinu, the listening rov shnayim, really they should have taught the rov shnayim. But since they also have the chatas ha'ov, tiski lei bechad simin. Who knows tiski? Tiski Kopel, shout out to Cheski Kopel. It says, Rov Shnayim came at the Ika Chatas Tiski, means it's enough. Sagi, it's genuk with one siman, right? It's enough to cut one siman. Mishumachi lo psikale, therefore they didn't paskin it. Meaning he didn't separate and didn't say, oh, actually, like 1 and 2 depends which type of poultry you're bringing as a korban. Vitana Milza de Mishtamea B'Tarvayu. He taught something that could be heard on both. If you say Rov Echad, cut the Rov Echad, so that means Rov of Kol Echad, the Echad, each one also. So that's why he was able to imply to us the halacha on both the olas ha'of and the chatas ha'of. Rov kol echad be'of. The majority of each one in an oaf is kosher. Heichad tiski bechad, where it's enough to just cut one. For example, on the chatas ha'of. Havi rubo kikulo. The rov of one is like one full one. Veichad debai tarti. And when you need to, havi rov kol echad kikulo. Each one, its rov is like it. So this is what Simi Bar Ashi says. I always imagine Simi Bar Ashi as like young Sheldon. Actually, never. I never imagined him like that until right this second. But precocious, you know. He was the last one, last generation that even got a say in what goes into the Gemara. After Simi Bar Ashi, Rav Ashi, Ravina, Rav Ashi.
So he was the final editor?
Yeah, he was one of them. there was still more. There's a Savoraim that was around, and they would, as the Gemara says, like the Tispura or say Asfara, that's from the Savoraim. So like, remember we had Tispura today somewhere? So that was from the Savoraim, maybe. The Savoraim, they would add just a little bit of explanations and what's going on in the Gemara. And so they might have been the final editors. And then they finished it completely, and then you have the Gaonim living in Bavel. So Mishumachi lo psikale, that's why they didn't make a difference. Rav Papa Amar, Rav Papa says, I have a pshat also. Hey, listen to me, says Rav Papa. Reisha b'chulin, I'll show you this from here. Midikitani Rabbi Yehuda says, Ashi yishchot esavridin, until you cut the veins. V'Rabbana, v'pligi Rabbana, and the rabbis argue on him. If you said that it's talking about mundane, it's good. But if you said by holy, sacrosanct animals, amai pligi rabbanan alei. Why are the rabbis arguing on him? Hu atmo ledamu tzarech. Okay, Shapir. Mishumachi pligi. This is why it makes sense that the Rabbanan are arguing with Rabbi Yehuda. The kevan delo huskaru vridim el mishum dam, because the only thing that anyone's talking about blood is because of. Sorry, the only thing people are talking about veins is for the blood that it has inside of it. Mali b'shashchita umali la'achar shchita. What's the difference if I cut it while I'm shechting? What's the difference if I do it after shechting? So if it was chulin, I would understand why the rabbis would argue on Rabbi Yehuda. But by kachim echi pligi rabbanon, how would the rabbis argue on it? Hu atzmo. Kol atzma v'ikar shashchita skachim l'dam utricha. Wow. Telling you guys, if we chase after Divrei Torah like hidden treasures, we will find the hidden treasures. An unbelievable principle. What do we learn in the Korban Sugya and in the Dam Sugya now? The Iker, the entire purpose of Shechting Kachim, says Rashi, says the Gemara, is for the blood. It's when we do animal sacrifice, not mundane chulin like we're doing in this Masechta, but animal sacrifice. Liritzod, right? So it says you need it for the dam, so you need it for the blood. So why would they argue that you don't have to cut the neck vein, connected to the brain vein? All right. I don't even know. So says Rav Baba. Rav Baba is saying that the chulin, because of the vein thing, the vein thing is not in vain according to Rav Baba. Ella is teaching me that the Reisha is in chulin, is shapir, but if you say it's in kajim, well, the rabbis argue you do need the blood for korban. Rav Ashi Amar, Rav Ashi says, Seifa b'kadshim. Rashi says the Seifa is in Kadshim. Mehacha, from here. Midikitani, because it says in Tanaic source. Hashochet shnei roshin ke'echad. It's later, actually. It's next page. We're going to see this. So get ready. If you shech two heads at once, so this is the real seifa. If everyone can turn to 32, Lamed Amud Beis, This is the real seifa of the Mishnah, right? They're talking about the end of the Mishnah. The end of the Mishnah, it says, Rov echad be'of, rov shnayim be'hema, the shechita is kosher, and then it says on lamed amid beis, it has shochet beis roshin, ke'echad, you check 2 heads as one, and we see it's b'di eved, but shechita is kashera. Shnayim eichsim b'sachin. Where do we know shnayim eichsim? Eichsim. 2 people holding on to something. Of Mitzia. Shnayim eichsim b'talis. But here we have shnayim eichsim b'sachin v'shoctim afilu echad l'mel v'echad l'mat, even if one is above and one is below, shchita zo kashera. Hit is as a rosh b'vas achas. What if you did a Johnny Depp, Captain Jack Sparrow beheading? You just chop off the head, you do ISIS. B'vas achas psula, that's puzzle. Haya shochet ve'etis as a rosh b'vas achas im yesh b'zachim alei tzavar kshera. So we're going to talk about if you were doing it and it accidentally happened and you cut off the neck. So if the neck is this long, so it's kosher. A certain long mali tzavar, I don't know the length of the neck. If the knife is length of the neck, haya shochet ve'etis beis roshim b'vas achas. This guy accidentally decapitated 2 heads at once. I was trying to just tie my shoe. I ended up decapitating 2 heads at once. Officer, you got to believe me, it was an accident. That's what the guy is saying. He shechted 2 heads at once. Im yesh b'sachin malei tzavar, if there's a malei tzavar, b'sachin malei tzavar, if the neck is the neck and the knife are the same length, it's kosher. B'medvar mamur, in one of these cases, talking about bisman sheholich v'lo hevi. If he only did one direction but not the other one. One direction, isn't that like a banana or something? What? It's a banana, I thought so. Velo heavy, heavy velo holech. He only did either this way or that way, but he didn't do both ways. Aval im holech behevi. But if he did do this way and that way, afilu kosher, afilu be'izam el kasher, if you do that a little bit, and even with a certain type of knife called an izama, which I think is a bris milah knife, it's kashera, it's kosher. Okay, just to see that coming Mishnah, that's really the seifa. That's really the end. It's so much at the end of the Mishnah that the Mishnah split it. The Gemara split that Mishnah up into 2 different places, 2 different dapim. Let's analyze the first and analyze the second. But when they're analyzing it, they're calling it the seifa. And from that, I'll show you, says Rav Ashi, that the seifa is kachim because it says that you check 2 heads. The shechita is kosher. So it implies that it's only b'di eved. Yes, l'chatchila. No. If you said, I understand, b'kachim, I knew l'chatchila, if you're saying it's talking about kachim, so that's why l'chatchila, you can't do it that way because of the gezeres hakachim that Rav Yosef brings, says, tizbach, so Rashi, tizbach l'ertzon, to your will, tizbechu, to your will, shechtet. Arina lekaman tizbechu ksiv v'yesh aim lemisores. So it says tizbach, and there's a strength to misores. This is a thing in the Gemara they talk about. Yesh aim lemikra, yesh aim lemisora. Sometimes the pasuk that's written, the way it's written in the Torah, will be a certain way, but we read it another way. Have you seen this? Mm-hmm. Have you heard about this? Seen Hoyd? So that's Yesh Ein Lemikra. The Mikra is what's written. Yesh Ein Lemisora is what's the tradition though. It's Misora. Misora, you have warmed our hearts. We have learned what it means to be a part of a Torah chain that never breaks apart. Gulisanei, Gulisanei, Gel Hashem. That's my Masorah song. Camp Masorah. Shout out Camp Masorah. All right. So, Hashochet. Shnei Rajin Ge'echad Shchitaso Kishnei Raj Shochet Yevedim Lechatchila Lo. If you're saying it's Kachi, that's why Lechatchila Lo, because it says Tizbach. It says Shechtet is in the Masorah. Tizbach implies the L'Shochet Yechidi. It's talking about one guy. Kamar. V'lo L'Shnayim, and not to do. Midlo Kasif Tizbechuhu. Since it doesn't say Tizbechuhu with the extra vav, maybe Umidichsivahu. And from the fact that it says who, Tizbechuhu, like Winnie the Pooh, Hey Vav, it should say. It doesn't say Tizbechu, it says Tizbechu, whatever, Tizbechu, but it's written Tizbechu. Mashma Nami Azevach Shavu Yehe Yachid. That it's everything here should be Lot Yachid. It should be one guy, one korban, not one guy, two korbans, and not two guys, one korban.
Each his own.
I'm saying they might have websites that show different setups of korbans and people bringing the korbans, but I wouldn't know of them. And the best way to do it, even though it might be kosher in kachim, it's not lechatchila. It's not the best way to do it. But in chulin, in mundane things, do two at a time. Do two at a time is mutter. So, V'amar of Kahana, that's what the Girsa is. Hadirish Lakish Beseder Yoma, talking about Yoma, Gabe Heviulo Kohen Gadol as a Tamid. Talking about that you brought the Tamid. Okay. So, Rav Ashi says we can prove it from the fact that it's B'di Eved, and that means that the Seifa's got to be talking about Kachem, because it would be completely Lechatchila in Chulin, but Bekachim is Lechatchila no, but the Eved in Lechatchila lo. So if you say Bekachim lo, Mishum Bekachim had Lechatchila lo, Mishum Tani Rabbi Yossi the Tizbach, and it implies that one person for one korban. But Amar Rav Kahana, and Rav Kahana, who didn't we see Rav Kahana earlier? It wasn't like Rav Kahana here somewhere, and I was like, oh yeah, it's the guy, the Mistabra, that the Reish in the Chulin. So Rav Kahana here says Tizbechu Kesiv, but it's written Tizbechehu. Elayimar Bechulin. I feel Lechatchila Nami Chulin. You can have two guys, one animal, two guys doing the Shrita. V'av Rabbi Shimon Reish Lakish says that the Reisha is Chulin and the Seifa is Kachim. To Amar Rishbal, because Shimon Lakish says, Me'achar sheshaninu rubo shel echad kamahu. After we taught that the majority of one is like it, Lama shaninu rov echad be'ov rov shnayim v'hema. Why do we need to teach the rov Echad and Ov and Rov Shnayim and Behema? I could infer that. Why do I need to go back and say these redundant words? The Vishash Aninu, because it is, since we learned Eviu Lo as Hatamid, you brought the Korban Tamid, Kartso V'Meirak, and those are two words that were not Gedalia. You know what it means to be not Gedalia? To be not sure. You know Gedalia sure? So Kartzo, if you lo as a David, it says Kartzo. Mafreshina and Azam, we explained there Berov Shnayim that you got to do rove of both, right? If you're doing an animal, you're doing a bad mouth. Shaloi Yakol Lemarek, that you couldn't cleanse. Maybe that's what Marek is to cleanse. Legamre, Legmor as a Shchita. You couldn't complete the Shchita Kulo. Levi Shekol Avodat Yom Kippur Eno Keshera Elabo. Because only the Kohen Gadol can do the shechita. The Chsiv Achrei Mais, because it says Achrei Mais v'chaper Kohen Asher Yimshach also. The Kohen that was anointed, that's the one who does the atonement. V'yatzarech lechos Maher es Amizrak. He's got to do really quick. He's got to grab the thing that throws the blood that you catch the blood in to throw. Ulikabel dam, so he has to do the shechting and he has to do the blood catching. That's why you cut in the Beis Hamikdash just enough to be a kosher shchita. Umenicha umemahir lekabel, and then he puts down the knife and he hastens to be mekabel the dam to catch the blood. Umeirak. So what's the merak? Is Kohen Achar Shchita. Achar as so different Kohen. Umerak Kohen Achar as a Shchita. So what does merak mean? To cleanse? Al Yado. Okay, so this is in Yoma. Rishon ben Lakish says Hivulo as a Tamid. So they brought for the Kohen, because the Kohen Gadol has to do all the Avaida on Yom Kippur. So they brought him the Tamid. Hivulo as a Tamid Kartzo Umeirak. So he does Kartzo. Mafreshinon Hazam Rov Shnayim Yochol Marek Viligmor. He didn't have time to also clean the animal and do all the shchita because he also has to catch it. And so they bring him the Tamid Kartzo V'Merach Acher. So I think Kartzo is that he has to do the shchita and the Kabbalah, but someone else Umerak Acher Shchitaso Al Yado, and then someone else actually completes the Shchita, or Al Yado, it says Bishvilo. Mariv Adam Al Yad Bino Vibiso. Oh, we also know about that Mona Adam. So Al Yad, do it for them, do it by their hands, by the hands of this guy, right? So a person can make an ear of what with his kids, his children. Umibnei Sheshaninu Sham. You have to cleanse the neck or something. I don't know. Yachol lo mirak a puzzle. Maybe if you didn't do the mirak, it would be puzzle. The bekajim lo tizki berov shnayim. You have to actually completely have to cut it. You have to cut, even though you did most of the two. In kajim, you got to even cut it more. Mirak acher shchitaso. Someone else does it. Al yado. Yacholo mirak ye puzzle. What if you didn't do this mirak, which I think it needs to clean or to empty out all the blood? It would be puzzle. Legach janinu. That's why we learned that no, it is kosher. Rov echad be'ov rov shnayim v'hem. It's not me'akev to do marika. Ye puzzle b'tmeya ha. Imkein avialach ha-marika avoda be'adam acher shalom b'kohen gadol. If you're telling me that the marika is, the cleaning is part of the avaida, so then it wouldn't be kosher if someone did it that wasn't the kohen gadol on Yom Kippur. Vitanya. wait a second. This Vitania over here has a special note. And this special note maybe that it's later on this page. So what does it say? It says Vitania Kol Avodas Yom Kippur. So it says if you lo as a David Korzo shechted it umerak acher shchitaso, and he does the marika, I don't know, someone else after the shchita al yado for him. Yago lo merak ye paso. If you didn't do this cleaning or this marika, this emptying, it would be paso. The kachshanin, whenever we learn rov echad v'ov rov shnayim v'hema. That's why we need to mention. Oh, by the way, it's good enough to do the rov echad in ov and rov shnayim v'hema. Amar mar. Says the master, lo meira yachol lo meira ge pazo. Well, maybe if he didn't do the marika, it would be pazo. But to make a question, how imkain avyale marika avoda, and the marika would be an avoda, and it would be with someone else. It's not the Kohen Gadol, so it would be pazo. Imkain avyale avoda ba'acher. Then you avoda with someone else. So obviously you don't need to do the marika. Vitanya, and it says in Brisa, Kol avodat Yom Kippurim eno kasheros elabo. It only goes with him. Hachigavar yachaye pasul midirabanan. Maybe we psul midirabanan if the Kohen doesn't do the marika. The sagadai techamina ika psul midirabanan. We might have thought that there is a psul midirabanan lekach shaninu, and that therefore we taught rov echad be'ov rov shnayim b'vehema. That's what we needed to teach in our Mishnah, that, again, to repeat ourselves, that the majority of one in a poultry, the majority of two in an animal. So if I see that even if I don't do marika, there's not even a pasul midirabanan, so then why do I need to do the marika? Either it means the emptying out or the cleaning, but we got to see. Answers the Gemara mitzvah lemarik. It's a mitzvah to do this marika. Zag Rashi mishum dam. It's a mitzvah to get all of that blood out, seemingly. The marik, or to clean it. I think he needs to get it out, like lashon rake, like empty. V'ani shamati biyoma. Rashi says, I heard in Yoma mishum berov am hadras melech, that the reason that we do it, the marika, is just the more people that we can get in on the mitzvah is better. That's what we say by Korban Pesach, that some guy gets the blood and then gives it to another Kohen and another Kohen and another Kohen and another Kohen. The more Kohanim that are in on the mitzvah, the better. Berovam hadras melech. Ve'ein libi kach, Rashi says, I don't know though if that is what my heart is saying. In libi omer kach. De'im kain, if so, kol avodos nami, hare akazav kapid b'kohen gadol v'giresh es rovam. It's not that we should do it lechatchila, have another guy doing the cleaning. It's just that it's not just so that we have a lot of people doing it, because then we'd have a lot of different people doing the avodah on Yom Kippur. But the avodah on Yom Kippur is the opposite of the avodah on Pesach. Avodah on Yom Kippur, everything has got to be Kohen. The avodah on Pesach, let's get as many people as we can get. But the ikr is to do the echad be'ov shnayim v'hema. We had a bunch of people talking today, a bunch of different opinions about why we needed. That's what we did today. We spoke about why that redundancy in the Mishnah. We saw a bunch of different takes of why the redundancy. Well, really one take of why the redundancy. Here's chulin, that one's kachin, and then a bunch of different proofs we saw of how do we know the first one is chulin and the second one is kachim. And we learned a lot about chulin and a lot about kachim on the way. Another great Avashol meant business. Yantif Steig, everyone for coming. And Mir Hashem, It's Hashem, we'll come together again to learn another time. Machar and Ha'erev, the Abishur should give us Siyat Nishmaya, and I just noticed something about a clock on a wall. And you know what it is? That it's time to wish you one and all goodbye.
Goodbye.
Farewell. So long. Adieu. Stay loose. Stay stagnant. Adieu, Mamvu.
Allah pours rain.
Goodbye until we meet again.